Hello guys, welcome to this video. Today I'm gonna talk about how I use my Resolume for my live DJ shows. What are the tips and tricks which I use inside Resolume. But before we start, I just want to clear two things. One is that this setup I use only for my live DJ sets where I've been called by the event organizers to do visuals for one of the gig, but I don't know which DJ is gonna play or what tracks he's gonna play. If I'm traveling with any of the artists, that setup is completely different. This setup is only for my live VJ sets. And secondly, this is not a beginner's tutorial, so I hope you have basic knowledge of how Resolume works. If not, then please I would suggest you go watch some other videos and get to know Resolume better and come back and watch this video. So let's start. Firstly, I would like to talk about my custom layout. As you can see, this is not how Resolume default layout looks like. When you open Resolume, the default layout looks something like this, but for the way I use Resolume, this is not the convenient layout for myself. It is nothing but basically I have a grid of clips at the center with 5 layers which play my clips. Then there is one text layer. Then there is an extra layer for all my logos, artist logos, sponsor logos and all that stuff. And there is one more layer for strobes. Now this strobes layer contains chaser and my other strobe effects. Reason behind me using 5 layers to play the clips is I use this MIDI controller called APC40 Mark II, which has a grid of 5x8 as their pads, wherein then so if I use 5 layers and 8 columns, as you can see my clips are loaded only till 8 columns, so it becomes a 5x8 grid. So this whole grid I can map to those pads on my APC40. As you can see, these are all mapped to the 5x8 grid on my APC40. That becomes very convenient for me to trigger clips directly from my pads on APC40. The clip property window, which is the properties of any clip, I have got it on the left hand side, vertically placed. Then the layer window is on my right hand side, and below the layer window is the composition window. Then my output monitor is below the clips composition window. This is the output monitor, and next to it is the preview monitor. So if you don't know how to place these two output monitor and preview monitor side by side, all you have to do is just click on this setting button. So by default it is above below one another, like output monitor is on top and preview monitor is below that. So all you have to do is select and use side by side, so that gets the window next to each other. And lastly, all my resources, effects, files are all here. So why I've kept it here is like I don't use these most of the time because all my effects I have placed, and anyways I can just type in whatever effect I want and I can get it directly from here. Going next, I'll go one by one with each of the section of the layout. So first I'll start with this clips grid and the clip section. Main thing which I want to share is that all my clips which I have loaded, they have a certain kind of property. I use all my clips, I treat all my clips in the same way. Firstly, I use something called active layer clip target. That means no matter where the clip is in the grid, if I want to play a particular clip on a particular layer, I just have to select that layer and then load the clip, so it goes on the selected layer. That's what the meaning of clip target set to active layer is. That means if I select a clip, no matter even if it is on layer 3, if I want to play it on layer 2, I can do that by just selecting the layer and then loading that clip. Then secondly, all my clips are played using BPM sync and not timeline. I would say not all, but 99% of my clips are played using BPM sync. What I can do is I can set my master BPM down here below, which you can see BPM, by just tapping the stab button on each and every beat, and as you can see, automatically the BPM gets assigned. So I use this a lot. I have a MIDI key set up for this tap and resync button, so that I can tap it and I know that once the master BPM is synced, no matter which clip is playing, since all clips are being played using BPM sync, everything will be synced to that master BPM. Next thing is fader start. So again, 99% of the clips I use fader start. So to do it, I can't, like, it's very difficult to go in each and every clip and do fader start on, the next fader start on. It's very difficult to do that. So easier way to do that is just right click on the layer, set it for the layer itself. So layer is set as fader start. So whichever clip which is being played on this layer will always have layers a fader start on. Similarly, I went and did the same thing for all my 5 layers. So all the 5 layers have fader start on. So even if there is a clip which is not determined, so all the clips by default has fader start set as layer determined. So if the layer has fader start on, that clip will start once you take the fader up. So by this I'll show you what exactly I mean by fader start. So right now you can see there is nothing coming in the output. This is the preview of the layer, but there is nothing coming, and my clip playback is in the middle, somewhere in the middle. So now once I take my video slider on top, once I raise it little bit, it will start from the first point of the clip. So every time I take my fader up, it starts from the beginning rather than from where we left it from. So that's a good way I feel to use fader start for all the clips, but most of the clips, not all the clips. For whichever clips I don't want fader start to run, like if basically I want this Voyage D to not to have fader start, all I have to do is just right click, go to fader start and set it as off. I can do this for few clips because I know for a fact the way I use Resolume playback clips, most of my clips are fader start, and there are very less number of clips which I don't want to have fader start. For those clips I can just right click and go and turn it off. Now going next to something, one of the important stuff in Resolume, which is effects, which I like to use like most of the times. But one thing is that I don't like to use effects on clips. I like to use effects on layers and few effects on composition. Why this is so is that if I had to use it on clips, it will be very difficult and very unmanageable for me to trigger each and every clip effects using my MIDI controller. Once I have it applied to my effects, for my layers, I can set my layers MIDI controller as a global. So whichever layer I have selected, only that layer will be affected by my MIDI controller effect change. I'll tell you in detail what does that mean. So if you see on my layer sections over here, there are number of effects over here, but this is not only for the layer 1, it is also for layer 2, also for layer 3, also for layer 4. These 4 layers have these effects, the same effects with the same properties and same MIDI controllers. So no matter whichever layer I have selected, I know for a fact if I have mapped a key for a mirror effect, then I select layer 3 and I hit that key, that mirror effect will be affected on layer 3. If I select layer 2 and hit that mirror effect again, then that mirror effect will be affected by layer 2 also. So one by one we'll go through all the effects which I use on the layers. So first and foremost, the effect which I use is mirror effect. So this mirror effect is controlled by using a toggle key on my APC 40, which is mapped to the blind property of the mirror effect. So this has like a simple property, like the x value is half, so it is mirrored on the x-axis, and then I have another control to change in and out of this mirror effect so that it treats it in a two different way. And also at any given point of time I can come here and just flip x or y position or change the y value also. Next is something interesting, which is twitch effect. Now this twitch effect makes the clip kind of a shake, you can say. So this is a custom effect which I made, which nothing but just a slight twitch in the position of x and y with a high frequency and little bit of scale wiggle also. But the rest of the stuff, the RGB shift and everything else is set to 0, because I just want the clip to shake a bit. So if you see over here, if I take another so if you see over here, this gets the clips to shake a bit. So why this is helpful is, on my MIDI controller I have set this blind button as a piano key, as in it will be on only for the time I hold that key. It's not like a toggle button where I press the key, it is on, and again I press the key, it is off. The piano button works as a piano, exactly like a piano key, the actual piano key. As long as you hold that key, the effect will be on, and once you release it, the effect will be off. So I like to use this on beat. So if there is a song which is coming, I like to just tap it on the beat, and on which makes the clip shake according to the beat, exactly on the beat. Next one is exposure. This is a effect which I use by toggling this blind button. What this does is, this effect just blinks on beat, on every beat basically. So the way I have done is, I have set the range of the exposure which I need to affect, which will be from 0 to 50%, and I have made it to BPM sync. Similarly, the same concept why I have made all my clips to BPM sync, because I want this effect to affect it on beat. So once I set my master BPM, this will automatically get synced to the master BPM. So on every beat, if you see, on every beat it just blinks. The next one is fisheye. This is again a very simple effect. I shall load another clip. If you see, this effect is which I had done, like it's more like a speaker bass effect. If you have seen a speaker which kicks in a lot of bass on, like, every beat, if the kick is very strong, then the speaker goes gets pops out a little bit. So this is kind of that. Simple way to do it, set the range of fisheye. Similarly, what we did for exposure, we have set the range and then made it play using BPM sync. So whatever my master BPM is, it will react to that. Again, I control this using my blind key on fisheye. So next one is one more twitch. Now this twitch is different from the twitch we saw earlier, because this twitch affects the position x and y and also the RGB shift. So if there are any clips with say white color in it, So this gives that those clips like a glitch effect, because it splits the RGB channel, the red, green and blue channel, and it gives like a glitchy sort of an effect. These are the properties for the twitch effect. Is fairly straightforward. The next one is a very interesting effect called blow. I made this effect. It took me like around half an hour, 1 hour to get it right. So here how it looks. So it gives all these stretchy lines and glitchy stretchy lines and that effect kind of a sort stuff. So how I've used this is, I have a opacity slider. This opacity is not a clip opacity. This opacity is of the effect. So basically it affects the effect from say 98 to 100%, but in that it is not going in a straight regular manner. So what I meant to say is, so if you see this, it goes in one direction only, but there is an option to change that transportation, or to change that playback as a random playback. So once I select this random thing, it chooses a random point every time, so it doesn't go in one straight line. So it becomes a more random kind of an effect. So it is, sometimes it is on, sometimes it is of the less value, sometimes it is of the 100 value, sometimes it is of like in between value. So I've used that random effect for opacity as well as for the x and y value of the same effect. Sorry, not y, because I'm shifting only on the x-axis, x and width of the effect. So those are also set to as random playback, and the speed is controlled using this speed slider. Next one is distortion. As you know, as per me, I guess all the glitchy stuff, all the TV distortion glitches and all these things started coming into the trend these days. So it was necessary for me to have like a glitch effect inside Resolume. So this is the best I could get from Resolume. I use distortion and the same concept. Since I wanted a randomization, I used random playback speed. Sorry, not speed, random playback on the distort property and also on the radius property. So this gives me a different value each time. So, and one good thing about distortion is it doesn't affect the same way for every clip. For every clip, it affects differently. So like this over here, you can see most of the distortion, you can see it in the center, but on this you can see it all over the place from top to bottom. One thing I missed out when I was talking about the clips is that I I I like to have all my clips inside Resolume, so that I know where, or like rather than going to the hard drive and searching in the Explorer and finding that and then importing it inside Resolume. By that time I might miss the moment of for that clip to be triggered. So what I like to do is I like to use multiple decks. So if you see all my decks down here, I have like around what, like some 22 decks. So each deck has a certain number of clips in it. So for example, there is this thing called ghost team. I have two packs of visual packs inside this is one from here till here. It's called, I guess, what is it called, some Wonder 5 chairs. It is one of the pack by Ghost Team. Great guys, you should check out their stuff. It's amazing. And then I have one more pack by Ghost Team called Voyage, which I have put in this. One thing I make sure before importing is that whatever I import only till column 8, because that's the cutoff for me, since my APC has only 8 columns. So I can add clips after that also, but those clips I will have to trigger manually. APC40 won't be able to trigger that unless and until you use some MIDI translator to change the channels and all that stuff. So if you see all the decks, I use this thing a lot. I use different decks to store different clips, so that I know, like, if I have some other, I know if I want to find a clip, I know where that clip is, in which deck that clip is. I just go to that deck and I select that clip. And this was made easier with Resolume, I think 5 or 6, I don't remember. But before that, it used to take a lot of time when you are switching the decks. But since now Resolume is 64-bit, I can change the decks. The time it takes to change the decks is very less, so that becomes very handy, and it's very effective also. So I can use one clip from this deck, and then I can go back to some other deck, and then I can use one clip from another deck, and then I can merge these two clips with, obviously, with all the effects and all the other stuff. Okay, so we are done with the layers, and we are done with the clips and the clip properties, how I use my clips, how I play my clips. Now last thing is about the compositions effects. Composition effects I don't use much, but there are very few essential effects which I have to use it on composition. Those are strobes. Now these strobes are like, if you see, there are 5 different strobes. Some of them are the same. For example, this strobe, the number 2 strobe and number 4 strobe, both are same, but the way of triggering them is different. The number 2 strobe, I trigger that using opacity slider, which is opacity fade, the fader on my APC40, and the strobe 4 I control using a toggle key for the blind property of that effect. So there are different ways to use this strobes, and there is a reason why I need these many number of strobes. This I'll explain in the next video, where I explain how I map my APC40 with my Resolume. But the most important 2 effects which I use on composition is slice transform, which is a very handy and a very powerful effect. So this makes your life basically it makes your life very easy. So I use that slice transform effect, and also invert RGB. So if any clip is playing, so if I'm merging like 2 clips in Resolume, when I do invert RGB, it gives me a negative of the whole composition. I like to use this key sometimes instead of my strobes. So instead of my strobe, I like to use these keys, invert RGB keys. So again, it is set to piano key on my APC40, so that I get, like, I can control it much in a better way on APC40. So yeah, that was it. This was my take on how I like to set up my Resolume for my live VJ shows. It might not be the most efficient way of doing it, but it helps me. It helps me make my life easier, and I'm very much comfortable with it. If you have any suggestions, any questions, you can drop in a comment in the comment section below, and please stay tuned for my next video, where I talk about how I use APC40 with Resolume and how I map my keys. So not to miss out on that video, make sure you subscribe, hit like, and hit that bell icon so that you get all the notifications from this channel. And thank you once again, and I'll see you next time.